Manhattan Bridge, almost 99 years old. The Manhattan Bridge, connecting Canal Street in Manhattan with Flatbush Avenue in Brooklyn, opened for business on the last day of 1909. Its 6,855-foot length carries 4 lanes of traffic plus a pedestrian walk on the upper level, 3 lanes of traffic, and 4 subway tracks on the lower. Here's a wonderfully giddy photo of the bridge under construction. Manhattan Bridge's design by Leon Moisseiff, I don't know how to say that, was controversial. Instead of a suspension bridge with stone towers like the Brooklyn Bridge, it was bare metal with eye-bar chains. One critic noted that New York was ugly enough already, and it was bad enough to have skeleton bridge towers like those of the Williamsburg Bridge, completed in 1903, without the added eyesore of a chain bridge. That's a quote from Petrovsky's Engineers of Dreams. Next section, the West Entrance. Carrere and Hastings, the prominent New York architectural firm that designed the New York Public Library, created an enormous colonnade and a grand arched entrance for the west end of the bridge. The Manhattan Bridge is the only one of the East River or Hudson River crossings to have such an elaborate entrance. On either side of the arch are complex sculptural groups by Carl A. Heber, completed in 1915. I have to say up front that allegorical groups such as this can be difficult to interpret. If I hadn't read somewhere that they represent the spirit of industry and the spirit of commerce, I'm not sure I would have guessed that. On the north pier of the arch, the left side is the spirit of industry. Her pose is supposed to indicate vigorous movement, although to me it just looks a little unbalanced. She's flanked by a man holding some sort of machinery and wearing a worker's hat, and by a woman in front of a large wheel or gear. On the right pier, the south, is the spirit of commerce, with Mercury or Hermes as the central figure, as he is at Grand Central Terminal. He's balancing above a globe, also rather awkwardly. He's flanked by a female figure holding a basket of food and a male figure holding a chest or bale of goods. Above both these groups, the north and the south side, are trophies, collections of objects such as a caduceus, a lion's head, a fasces, and ship's steering wheels. The frieze at the top of the arch shows Indians hunting buffaloes. I wish someone would explain that to me. Next section, the span and the towers. If you love early 20th century industrial architecture, which I do, put taking photos of the span of the Manhattan Bridge on your to-do list. Next section, East Entrance. The Brooklyn entrance to the Manhattan Bridge was originally decorated with 2 large sculptures by Daniel Chester French, dedicated in 1916. You can just make them out in this picture. One of the figures is an allegory of Brooklyn. She is elegant but approachable. At her side, a small child is curled up reading a book. Behind the child is a leafy branch, because Brooklyn was also known as the Borough of Trees. On her other side is a church. Brooklyn is also known as the Borough of Churches and Homes. A garland and a lyre toward the front indicate that Brooklyn is a cultured place. The tablet in her hand reads, this is Dutch, and I have no clue how to pronounce it, Eendracht maakt macht, which translates as, together we are powerful. It's the same idea that's behind the Roman fasces, and, according to Wikipedia, goes back to the Latin phrase, Concordia res parvae crescunt, small things flourish by concord. The Dutch is a nod to New York City's early history as a Dutch colony. Perhaps the inclusion of the phrase is in honor of the consolidation of 40-odd cities, towns, and villages into Greater New York in 1898. In contrast to Brooklyn, French's sculpture of Manhattan looks decidedly aloof. Her hair is in an elegant updo topped by a tiara. She wears an aegis, a reminder of Athena, goddess of knowledge and of war. In her proper right hand, she holds a winged globe, symbolizing New York's worldwide trade. Her foot rests on the lockbox, a reminder of the time when the financial district had actual cash lying about. On her left, a proud peacock struts. The importance of New York Harbor is indicated by 3 ship's prows behind the peacock. On her other side are a sculptured marble torso, a nod to Manhattan's museums, and a pile of exotic produce. Next section, Moses shifts Brooklyn and Manhattan. I love French's Brooklyn and Manhattan, but at the point where most traffic across the Manhattan Bridge was moving considerably faster than a horse and buggy, they probably began to vanish from public perception. And of course, the pollution from automobiles was severely damaging to the stone. In 1963, when Robert Moses decreed the creation of a new entrance ramp at the east end of the Manhattan Bridge, Brooklyn and Manhattan were shifted to the main facade of the Brooklyn Museum on Eastern Parkway. You can just barely see them in this photo above the ends of the curved glass entrance. Here is one, and here is the other. There's not much to see at the east end of the Manhattan Bridge now, but if you're exploring the parks along the East River between the Brooklyn and Manhattan Bridges, watch for this entrance, whose pillars are a nod to the Manhattan Bridge's towers. This has been my blog post on the Manhattan Bridge, almost 99 years old. You can join my free Sunday recommendations list. See the URL on screen or email me. You can also support me starting at $5 a month or follow me for free on Patreon. And check out DianeDuranteWriter.com for posts on sculpture, painting, and my other obsessions. Thank you for listening.